Hey guys. Could see there are already 3 of you in here waiting, so I just wanted to hop on even though I'm still getting set up. How's it going? Happy Tuesday. I'm going to check in with the chat in a second. As always, if the audio is weird, let me know and I'll do my best to fix it. Thank you guys for being here. If you're watching the archive of the stream, it usually takes 5 minutes or so to get rolling, so you can go ahead and skip ahead if you want. Trying to get everything set up with my multi-computer setup so that I can have you guys look at me and I can look at the chat. Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. The computer that I'm looking at the chat on is really slow and I forgot that I needed to get it out, so it's just booting up now. But yeah, we are gonna get rolling momentarily. Gonna put up an Instagram story and then I will really get going. So thank you for bearing with me. How are you guys doing? It's finally back to beautiful weather in LA. We had some rain. I was not a fan, but back to sunshine the way it's supposed to be here, which I'm very happy about. And I will get into all the practice talk, which there is so much to talk about once I am in my cello seat. I know this mic is really directional too, the microphone's over here, so sorry if it's quiet while I'm over by the computer. Okay. That's done. Oh, hey, you guys are saying stuff. Can I play anything Irish? Not really. We're barely gonna play any music today. I'm gonna be doing some true practice, scales, warm-ups, all that fun, boring stuff that makes us good at instruments. That's what I'm gonna be doing today. All right. Oh, I love some Handel. Try to announce your name. Oisin O'Toole. Oisin, am I right? Okay. Hey you guys, I'm glad so many of you are here. That is great. Let me get into my chair and figure out how I'm gonna do this. Get set up here. Chair, computer. Oh, I can put it on this. It hasn't been that long since I've live streamed, but I suddenly just feel like everything feels different. So, it's okay. All right. Pull this over. Okay, except that's gonna be in the shot, so maybe not actually. Believe me guys, I would have prepared this more in advance, but I don't mind doing it in front of all of you. So, let's see. All right. Hey Kevin, thank you for stopping by. Thank you guys for the thumbs up already, even though I have not done anything. I totally appreciate them, so if you are enjoying this stream, do give me a thumbs up. So here is the deal with today. I'm going to talk about what I'm going to do on the stream, and I'm just going to talk about practicing in general, and then I'm going to start practicing. Because this is going to be like a real deal practice session. I know in the past I've done a lot of live streams that are practice sessions, but then I play a little bit and then I talk to you guys and I answer questions, and then before we know it, I'm mostly just hanging out with you guys in the chat, which I love doing, by the way. But today I wanted to actually do some real hardcore actual practicing. So the stream today, I am still going to be checking the chat, but I'm going to be playing for stretches where I'm not looking at the chat. So just FYI, if you have a question, throw it in there. It just might take me a little while to get to it, because if I'm constantly tending to the chat, I can't really be playing with any real consistency. And since my goal with these streams is really to actually practice, I want to be making that first priority and then checking in with you guys when I can. So let's talk about coming back to practice when you haven't practiced in a while. If you guys didn't see, I think it went up yesterday. Yeah, I uploaded a video about how I don't practice, which I haven't thought about doing for a long time because it's a very taboo kind of thing in classical music. We're all expected that we're playing for hours and hours constantly. For our entire lives, birth till death, we're always practicing. And that's not really true in the professional world, so I did a video that talked about that. You can feel free to go hop over to that video. It's my most recent video as of now, if you want to check that out, or maybe you already watched it. Anyway, I end the video saying I gotta get back in my practice routine though. Despite the fact that I've not really practiced for the last year, it's time to get back into it. So this stream, this is the first of many streams getting back into a practice routine after taking an extended period of time off. I do know Voices of Music. There's some friends of mine. They're awesome. If you guys don't know Voices of Music, they're a great early music channel on YouTube. Hey guys. Hi everyone. Just hang out and talk and shit. That would be fun. But I gotta practice. And I can do other streams where I just do Q&A. You know, I interact with you guys a lot, whether it's in the comments. You know, I do filmed Q&A videos where I take questions from Instagram and Facebook and answer those. So I like to talk to you guys, but I also gotta play my cello. That's why I'm here. So that's the priority today. So returning to practice after you have not been practicing for a long time. The main thing that we lose is, of course, not our musicality. Our musicality doesn't really go away if we don't play our instrument because that's more internal. What we really lose is just our technical facility. And on a string instrument, that's right hand and left hand. So there are going to be multiple things that I'm going to go through to work on both of those aspects, and really it's important. You can throw yourself into repertoire if you want, but I don't think it makes sense when you're first getting back into practicing to play serious repertoire from start to finish. I just don't think that's a realistic thing to do, and I think if anything it's going to create a lot of excess tension. Your muscle memory is probably not fully there anymore, so really rebuilding the muscle memory from the ground up is the way to do it. So what I'm going to be doing today, a lot of slow, methodical practice. It's going to be boring, guys. If you're here to hear music, it's not going to be that fun today because this is going to be the real deal stuff. But I do think if you're a musician and you are thinking about practice for yourself, you may get, some good ideas or some inspiration for your own practice sessions. And if you're not a musician and you just like the sound of the cello, I don't think practicing sounds bad. It's just not music. It's kind of like you can pretend you have a cello playing roommate and they're just practicing in the other room. But that's going to be the vibe of this stream, not super repertoire heavy. So scales, and I'll talk a little bit about each of these things as I do them, but scales are the biggest for me for left hand. Any fretless instrument, really learning the fingerboard, intonation, you have to do your scales. So I'm going to be doing a lot of scales to work on left hand stuff. And scales already can do so much, but what we do to kind of go the next level in string playing after scales are double stops, like thirds and sixths, to work on framing the whole left hand, so you're not only working individual finger positions, but actually maintaining multiple as you go through. We'll see if I do that kind of work today or if I just keep it to scales, but that's the left hand approach. And then right hand approach is always different bow strokes, and I do that on my scale, so I'm going to be showing a lot of different kinds of bow strokes that sort of help wake up my fingers. Some of you may be familiar with my baroque bow technique if you've watched some of my other videos, or you are a period instrument type person. But because of how I play on this bow, my baroque bow, I need a lot of finger dexterity because everything I'm doing, all my expression is coming from the right hand for the most part. It's not coming from vibrato in the left hand. So having these fingers be flexible, in control, nimble, everything, that takes a lot of warming up and reminding the muscles. I do play pinky on top like a violin bow. What that does is it gives me a counterbalance from my first finger. You can see my hands pronated. So I get this balance between the pinky and the first finger, which gives me a lot of dexterity and control over my articulations. But I have to say, having not practiced, this pinky is like really weak. I used to have the strongest pinky from holding the bow this way, and it's really out of shape. So I'm gonna have to be getting my pinky strength back, getting better control over the bow, and then just getting the left hand really, really warmed up. All right, guys. So that's a little intro on returning to practice. Let's put it into practice, literally. I use the word practice in two different ways. You get what I'm saying. So I'm going to adjust the microphone a little because the cello is louder than my voice. But if you guys have trouble hearing me, let me know. Like I said, I'm going to check the chat, but not as much as I'm going to play the cello for this particular stream. So hopefully everybody will be fine, and I will check in when I can. It has been so long since I really practiced. This is my favorite rosin, Kaplan Dark. If you guys want to know any of the stuff I like, there's a link to my Amazon shop in the description. It has all my favorite, like, just go-to cello products. My favorite rosin, my tuner metronome thing that you'll see me use in a second. The modern strings that I use are on there. Also, my gut strings I buy directly from the maker, and he is not on Amazon. Okay. Let's tune and start being honest about how I need to practice. And I am tuning to A415, half step lower than modern A. This is my baroque cello. It does not have an end pin, in case you guys are not used to my setup. Also no fine tuners, so that's why I'm tuning with the pegs. I just noticed that the caption of my video is cut off. It's supposed to say how to return to practicing after a break, so I'm going to fix that before I start playing. Alright, let's fix the title of my video and then we'll go. This is bothering me, the cello stand, but yeah, I'm just going to move it. Okay. See if that fixes it. Says it was saved. Alright, good enough for me. Okay. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do what I always start my streams with, scales. I like to do scales starting with C major and then going around circle of fifths until I get up to 3 sharps, and then I switch to flats and I go up to 3 flats. Why? Because in Baroque keys, those are pretty much all the key signatures we're going to need. And let's see, what's a good way to start? I'm going to start with just a plain longbow. We're doing this like real deal, bringing the technique back, so we're going to start easy. I'm just going to do a legato bow stroke and start on C major. Volume is too high, too low. So I'm thinking about a lot of stuff, if not apparent, when I'm playing these scales. A big one is bow, how I'm tracking my finger movements across the length of the bow stroke, how I'm initiating the bow change. I'm really striving to have smooth bow changes when I'm doing this legato stroke. So what I'm trying to avoid is that jerk movement we get on the bow direction change. And the problem usually when you get a very obvious bow change is that you're changing too fast. We actually have to slow the speed down on the change. Harder than it seems, though, to be smooth on a bow change like that. So I'm going to keep going through. That was C major. We're going to go circle of fifths, so I'm on to G major now. Staying on this plain legato bow stroke. Okay. Moving on to D major. This is actually so therapeutic, you guys. I know it seems boring, but sometimes just forcing yourself to do the mundane work is the most healing of all. A major. On to flat scales. I wish I knew what you guys were saying in the chat, but that is not my language. But I hope you're having a good time. Fine by me. depth scales are dull and boring, but they are so worthwhile, and honestly, I think if you get into the zone with scales, they're super relaxing. I actually like them, but I'm weird. If I'm going to be playing relative minors, that's not a bad idea. I was planning on just doing major for today because I go through so many of them, and I'm also going to rotate a lot of different bow strokes, but minor is a great idea too. So maybe for a future stream I'll do minor scales instead. Good idea. So that was my cycle going up to 3 sharps and 3 flats on the legato bow stroke. So next up I'm going to do my long short bow stroke, which I've talked a lot about. And if you are playing on a baroque bow, or even if you're not, it's a great stroke for getting your fingers flexible because it requires kind of more detailed bow strokes that really need finger mobility. So I'm going to go through my same scales that way. And I don't blame you guys if you're bored. I don't know if I would listen to someone play scales for an hour, but I know that it is useful and interesting for some of you. And I will try to do some streams where I actually play through repertoire because I know how much you guys like that. But I want to be honest about the real deal practicing I'm doing here. Because again, if you check out that video I made about not practicing, it was my confession that I need to do this work again, just because we all do, and I took a lot of time off from it. So, onwards now, we're going to do the long, short bow stroke, again starting in C major, going up to 3 sharps, and then flats up to 3 flats. I'm going to check that I'm still in tune. It was very rainy in LA, so that means humid, and now it's back to our normal desert climate, so my cello, if you guys don't know, if you play on gut strings, humidity and moisture in the air will make your strings go flat, dryness will make them go sharp. In case you're wondering, because we all know how out of tune they get. To some extent the same for steel strings, but not nearly as severe. That's definitely true. If you're a violist, you end up playing scales all the time. So, where were we? Long, short, starting on C major. Michael suggesting rhythms. I definitely do a cycle of different rhythms, including triplets and fast notes too, that we'll get to after the slow warm-ups are done. So that was G, let's go to D. Scales is you can just zone out. Like after a while, assuming you know your fingerings, you can just really get in the groove of whatever pattern you're playing and like just, it almost has a meditative quality. We can't do that often while playing music because we're in such like an artistic brain mode of trying to make music, but playing scales, you can just float away in your mind. That's what I like about it. Hi, Dana. Thanks for stopping by. Okay, that was F. Where are we at? B flat. 2 more scales on this pattern and then we'll start amping it up a little, but I honestly feel like I could do this all day. usually do is a combination of rhythm bowing patterns that I adapted from Sevcek, which is, I believe, was he Romantic period? Must have been. Bow technique guy. I wonder where those books are. Let me see if I have them in here, and I can show you guys what I'm talking about. But basically, I just used it for inspiration on different bowing patterns to do with different rhythms, so I'm not really following it exactly. Got a lot of stuff in here. This is where my music books go to die. Not die, but just these are the ones I don't get out that often. Let's see. Wow, I got all sorts of good stuff in here. If I don't find it in a couple more turns, though, I'm giving up. Not seeing it. Sevcek, spelled Sevcik. Might be the method book. Someone might know in the chat. But yeah, I just used it for some rhythm ideas. So I do a little scale rotation using some different rhythms from Sevcek. So I'm going to do that next. I should play some repertoire at the end, but I'm just like, I'm in chill scale mode if you ask me. Yeah, probably Opus 2, Eduardo. That sounds like it might be right. It's a technique book for bow technique. I think there's actually might be like a book 1 and a book 2. Something like that. I'm tired, you guys. I think I have a cup of leftover coffee from the morning over there that maybe I could drink. Undecided on if it's going to help me or not. I'll go get it. See, and I gotta say, this is why the live streams just end up me talking to you guys, because knowing that you're here, it's just easier to just talk to the chat than it is to super focus on my cello playing. But that's what I'm trying to do. Okay, I'm caffeined up. Time for more scales. The amount of discipline it requires to get yourself back into a routine, though, when you've been out of one, it's like going to the gym. If you used to go to the gym like a couple times a week or like almost every day, and then you take like a month off for vacation, it's like that first day you go back, it's just like, oh god. But I actually feel okay because I'm not pushing it. I would feel way worse if I were trying to play repertoire right now. But just doing scales, taking it easy, it's the way to do it. Oh, hey, Boofar, thanks for joining. We're having pretty, I don't want to use the word boring. What's the word I should use? We're just having a little bit of a practical stream. We're just doing scales and warm-ups, taking it really easy. I'm trying to focus on cello playing, but I can't help but talk to you guys anyway. But I'm trying to really just play through some exercises and scales so that I can really demonstrate what it's really like when I warm up, even when the live stream's not on. So let's get back to that. So now I'm going to go through my Sevcek rhythms. Still on scales, going through circle of fifths. Starts with eighth notes with a dot. And I do these all in a baroque style interpretation of what that articulation would be. tension is less on the instrument too, which I think makes it sound better in addition to the lower pitch. Okay, triplets. Ooh, I want to stop already because I can feel that it's hard, so I'm going to go slower. I always find separate bow triplets nasty because, you know, obviously when we play fast, we like to have some down bow that feels like, okay, this is where I am, to keep the sense of the beat. But obviously with the triplet, every 3 notes starts a different direction. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So each group of 3 starts on a different bow direction, which makes it harder to keep track of. So I'm going to take my triplets a little slower, despite wanting to power through them fast. You should totally take up baroque violin. You can also like try out some stuff on your modern instrument, but of course the gut strings. You can also tune your modern instrument down. I mean, don't get your teacher or anybody mad at you, but don't break a string or anything. But you can tune your steel strings down to 415, get a baroque bow. You know, there's a lot of like in the middle of modern and baroque that you can do if you want to try it out, and I definitely have videos about that on my channel for anybody kind of interested in trying out baroque stuff. Go to the instructional videos playlist on my channel because there's a lot of advice on things you can do to try it out. Let's see if I can do my triplets a little faster now that I went through the flat scales with the triplets. Let's see, can I go fast? It's all about maintaining too, because of course I can do a couple groups of triplets, you know, in time, but it's about the stamina of being able to continue the pattern. So let's see. Not too bad. Okay, and now 8th and 16th note combinations. dotted rhythm is the last one. Ooh, I knew I was going to miss that shift. It's so hard with this bow stroke. Because also, I don't know if you guys are noticing, I'm doing a retake for every dot. Ooh, what was I doing? B flat? And normally when we have, I'm playing dotted 8th, 16th. So normally when we have that rhythm in modern playing, we do it hooked, meaning down, down, up, up. Because someone in the 20th century decided that was easier or better. But when we're doing it stylistically, we do it separate bow, and then whether or not we do a retake after every single one is kind of dependent on how we want to phrase. And I was trying to do it after every stroke. That is just hard with the shift. So I might see if I do fewer retakes. Let's see. You know what? I'm just going to practice that shift. That's why I'm here. So I'm going from a 3rd position, 4th finger up to a G. And this is actually, I'm glad I'm missing the shift because I want to talk about how I practice shifts. So for one, slow first. Always slow first on a shift. And I'll show this little exercise. I do it with all of my students. It's just the best muscle memory training exercise of sliding and slurring into the shift. So you'll see what I mean. Thank you, Carolina. Also, my strings are really sticky. I guess my hands are sweaty, but it's making it harder to do the shift also. Practice shifts, slurring and sliding up, because we don't want to lift when we shift, because your muscle memory can't measure the time in the air, but your muscle memory can remember the length on the string. So forever and ever, but make sure you don't go past the note, because the idea of sliding up is that you slide up and you arrive at the note. So if you're going past the note, you're sliding too fast. All right. I mean, I got this shift when I played the B flat the other times through, but now adding in the dotted rhythm is making me miss the shift. So let's see if I do any better this time. Better. It was a little bit high. I'm shifting in between the dot, which technically is actually a Baroque rule. You're not supposed to do that. So let's see if I came up with an alternate fingering so that I didn't have to shift in between that short dot. Technically, I shouldn't do that one either. So let me change my whole fingering, if you're not following what I'm talking about. So in this dotted rhythm, there's actually a historical rule that you should not shift underneath either the dotted rhythm, or also they really didn't like shifts under slurs either. You're kind of supposed to group your positions within your bow articulation. So let me change my fingering around so I don't have to do a shift in the time between the 16th note and the following 8th note. Okay, that's the fingering I need to do. Let's try that. Done a B flat scale with that fingering, so I'd have to get used to it, but it does work a lot better. So sometimes it helps to problem solve your fingering if your fingering is giving you a hard time. It's a lot more accurate than I was before. convinced by that fingering. Wow, look at that, I solved my problem. Yeah, so for shifting, you should always be keeping contact with the string when you shift. You don't have to be fully pressed down. It doesn't have to be a glissando all the way up, but you should have some contact with the string. You shouldn't be fully lifting the finger when you shift. Okay, so that was that. What else can I do? You know what? I'm going to do thirds and sixths, even though they might sound really bad since I'm out of practice. They're such good left-hand warm-ups. There's just nothing like them, and I'm in so, like, the Zen practice space, so I'm going to do that next. So string instruments are tuned in fifths, the violin family ones at least, except for bass. So sixths are pretty reasonable intervals to play. Thirds are much harder. So I'm going to start with sixths. So what we do is a fifth is our open. So you just add one step on the upper string. And so forth. Hey Richard, it is very normal that the gut strings don't sound good in low humidity. They don't sound good at super high humidity either, but I'm talking like 85% and up. But I do think gut strings are happiest at like 50% humidity. I mean, now I'm in Los Angeles, and you know we don't get a lot of humidity, but it's natural desert weather. I found the absolute worst killer for gut strings was indoor heat, which I had a lot of when I lived in Boston. So indoor heat is the absolute worst. If you're dealing with a situation where you have heat on, I would either run a humidifier. I mean, I usually really run a humidifier if you have cold, dry winters. But you can also use oil on your strings. I use just like extra virgin olive oil because that's what I have. I think you can use coconut oil. Some oils maybe can go bad and aren't great, but I don't know. I've just used a little bit of olive oil. I've done this in some of my old East Coast streams. Put a little bit of olive oil on like a rag and you can just gently rub it into the strings. Not where you bow, but on the rest of it. And it puts a little more moisture and hydration in the string. But really just keeping it humidified is the best. So that's what I would say about that. Eduardo, I'm glad my tip helped, or hopefully will help. Okay, so I'm going to go through these six. Usually I just do them in a couple keys, and I just kind of go through the six up until about fourth position and then come back down. It's not really a formal thing, but super great for left hand. When you're feeling confident about it, you can go right ahead and play the double stops. If you're a little shaky on your intonation, you can break up the double stops. Always playing the lower note first, using that as your reference, and then tuning your top note to the bottom note. Because remember, when you're playing double stops, don't start adjusting both notes at the same time, because then you have no reference point. Always make your lowest note the one that you aim to get that in tune, and then leave that pitch where it is and tune everything to that. Another alternative is playing a drone so that you have something absolute. You guys know this thing. It's my favorite little box. Plays drones, different pitch levels, everything. It's in my Amazon shop if you want to get one of these. I'm not sponsored by them. I've just had that thing for like 10 years. Okay. Six, starting in C major. I should have checked my strings before I started because my cello was really out of tune before I started this stream. And never practice double stops on an out of tune instrument. Oh my god. You waste all your time tuning all your hands to out of tune strings. always low. My fourth fingers are always low, but a lot of people's fourth fingers are low. For me, it's because my pinky is so small and weak, but always good to check your fourth fingers. Strings feel sticky. I don't think I played them with sticky hands, but it feels hard to get around on my strings. It's not humid either. I've got no excuse. Okay, so that was C major. I'll do D major next to hit some sharp notes. Time is flying. I've already been streaming for an hour. Okay, D major. Stop to check with open strings. That's always a good idea in double stops. Yeah, descending is harder. That's why I'm doing this, but it's painful. And I'm doing it in front of you guys. That just takes courage, in case you didn't know. It takes courage to be very unpracticed in front of a bunch of people, but you guys are so nice that you make it easy. C. Don't be surprised you're getting good tips from a cellist. Honestly, so much string technique translates easily across the other string instruments, so I feel like I've learned good things from violin master classes and stuff. Okay, so that was D. Now I gotta do E flat. Notice how if I miss, like if I go to one of the double stops and I hit it out of tune, I don't just replay the one that I played out of tune. Oftentimes I will replay the one that preceded it, because it's not just about getting that one in tune, it's about how do you approach getting it in tune from wherever you were before. So anytime you miss a shift, a note, anything, don't isolate just the thing you miss. Make sure you include whatever came before it, because part of the issue is arriving in the correct place from wherever you were coming from. Okay, E flat, sixth, and then we're gonna do thirds, and then it's gonna get nasty. So thirds. Thirds in string instruments basically require you to shift every interval. And we don't play thirds that often, but it's just so great for framing the hand because they're almost all on cello at least 4s and 1s. So having to get a 4 and a 1 in tune at the same time is just great for structuring the left hand. Okay, thirds. Starting with C major. Could use a stretch, always good. If you guys don't stretch, if you practice more than 45 minutes a day on some sort of regular basis, please make sure you stretch your body no matter what your instrument is. I learned that the hard way because in high school, I didn't get serious about the cello until I was 15, and then it was time to take college auditions. So I went from barely even playing the cello to practicing like an insane person. And I really messed my body up bad because I just didn't understand how to take care of my body. So stretching is super important. Cello and a lot of instruments and computer sitting even makes us be this way all the time. So actually just doing shoulder rolls that bring us back, super important. You know, you can look up basic, like, I guess I could do like a stretching video on the channel if people cared, but you can look up like very basic stretches for back, shoulders, neck, and just like, even just like little tilts and rolls goes a long way for your body not getting really messed up. How do you make sure your hands aren't tense when playing? Well, tension, of course, is like the lifelong struggle of any instrument, but string playing especially. I think the biggest thing we can do to battle tension is warming up for a long time, because when we're warming up and we're going slow, that's what I mean by warming up, is playing slowly, we have more control, obviously, over our tension. It's when we start to play fast or we start to do things that are more involved that it becomes involuntary and we're just tense trying to make it happen. So spending as much time as you can on the slower end of the spectrum where you can actually say, am I relaxed? Okay, let me relax those muscles. Like when you actually are going slow enough to make those adjustments, spend a long time, you know, just playing in a relaxed way before you throw yourself into the harder repertoire. Other than that, you know, not playing tense is a question of slowing things down, reminding yourself, doing the best you can. I really think it's a lifelong struggle, honestly, eliminating tension. But I do think that the most valuable part is slow, controlled practice where you're able to consciously release the tension. Okay, let's do some thirds. What am I doing? G and B natural. C major, sorry, trying that again. Into this in a way that I would not recommend. I'm not being a good role model. So what I'm going to do is what I mentioned for the 6, which you can do if you're not nailing every single one super in tune or you're out of practice like me. Break up the double stop, starting with the bottom note, and then tune the next one to the bottom note. So that's what I'm going to do now. You'll see what I mean. Okay, so you can see by breaking up the double stop, I was a lot more successful than I was before trying to get them in tune. So I could now up the ante and try to do it without breaking them apart. Honestly, especially on gut strings, playing up in these higher positions with double stops, as you can hear, I kind of sound like a suffocated whale. That's the baroque cello, though. What are you going to do? You don't get to make excuses, you just got to make it sound as good as you can. But obviously on a modern cello, steel strings, you'll get a lot more clarity in these upper positions on the lower strings. But that doesn't mean you can't practice the technique on a baroque cello. So yeah, I'll try it now without breaking apart. Or you know what, actually, I'm going to go through the different keys with the thirds, and then I'll try it unbroken. But I'm going to keep the broken bowing that I'm doing on the thirds. So onwards to D. D major thirds. What am I doing? Okay. Major, major. There we go. Track of when you're doing thirds, because you're playing everything pretty much in alternate positions in order to fit the third note in, so it's easy to forget where you are. To do D major again. Wouldn't you agree? And yeah, you know, it is pretty. I got my little humidity monitor. I'm going to show you guys this. So every single live stream I show you guys all my favorite things, but I feel like that's some of the value in the stream is seeing like what supplies I use and have when I'm practicing. But I've got this little thing. I'm like obsessed with it, but I'm also kind of like a temperature freak. Oops. It's a humidity monitor. It's got the temperature on there too. So you can see it's only 25. Oh, I made it more humid by holding it. 26% humidity in here, which is not a lot. So, but it's really, I have been so much happier because I used to always, especially with gut strings, like stress out. Like, why is my string squeaking? Is it dry? Is it humid? I don't know. So now I just have my humidity monitor and I know what the deal is. So it is a little dry in here right now, so that's why I'm getting some squawks on the A string, but probably getting some squawks because I'm out of practice too, not gonna lie. So let's do some D major again. D major thirds. Keep this key signature in mind so I don't miss any notes this time. little depressing when you do these warm-ups, and I remember how good I had gotten at all these warm-ups when I used to do them all the time, but gotta start somewhere when you're blowing off the dust and starting over again. So, what was I going to say? Okay, so if you are a cellist and you're going to do this kind of warm-up, so as you know, everything is pretty much 4s and 1s in order to play all those thirds. And if you were doing it on violin, it would just be like 3s and 4s and 1s, right? I guess maybe it would be 2s. No, it would be 3s, I think. So what you can do is actually practice just all the 4-4-4 shifts, because that's where it gets hard. Let me see if I can demonstrate what I'm talking about. Now watch how I'm going to go into all the positions as though I'm going to play the third, but I'm not going to play the third. I'm just going to focus on getting the 4 in tune as it moves up the scale. So watch. So that's already one. Yeah, honestly should have done that first, because then once you know that you can hit all those 4s, it makes it much easier to hit all the 1s that you have to hit in conjunction with the 4s. Okay, so now I'll go to flats, flat thirds now. E-flat somehow wasn't as terrible. I think I've practiced the E-flat thirds more than anything since I've done a lot of E-flat pieces that I really like the 4th Bach Suite I did for my master's recital. I loved that, and that made me like I was in the world of E-flat so intensely while studying that suite. So now what? I did my thirds. I can keep doing them. I'm a little bit impressed with myself because I've been streaming for an hour and 15 and I've only done warm-ups. So not too shabby, right? When I was first learning baroque cello and taking lessons on baroque cello, I would do, what was it? Minimum 20 minutes on just scales and warm-ups, but sometimes I would do actually an hour and a half of just scales and warm-ups and bow technique exercises before I would even do repertoire. But it made such a difference. If you're trying to really reform your technique or learn a new technique, you just gotta spend time on just the technique and not repertoire, because repertoire is great, but it's distracting. It's, we get so in the music, we kind of forget about all the technical stuff. So, okay, I feel a little warmed up, but I honestly feel so, out of practice. So I'm trying to think what will be most useful. And then I'll play some Bach, because that's kind of what I'm working on brushing up right now, is a few movements of the first suite, so I can end with some of that so that you guys can finally hear some music. but I still don't feel all there. So what else can I do? Maybe I'll get the Bach out and see if anything draws my attention as a technical thing to practice. And thank you guys so much, by the way, for just being here and hanging out with me. If you have been to the practice sessions before, you kind of know what to expect. If you're new to my channel, hi, welcome. Please subscribe. You will get notified when I go live if you're a subscriber, which is great. If you want to give me a little tip or throw me something for this stream, you can do so on the GoFundMe right there, which would be super appreciated. Or you can check out my Patreon. There's also a link to that, and my patrons on Patreon help support all the videos that I do on my channel. Would not be possible without them. So yeah, let's do some Bach. Why not? To see if my Bach manuscript is hanging around somewhere. Yeah, I once out of pride did perform. So if you guys don't know, there's no surviving manuscript for the Bach Cello Suites in Bach's hand. Oops, that is not what I'm trying to show you. But the closest source we have is one of his wives. Why can't I make this straight? Anna Magdalena. It's her copy. That's the closest we have to Bach, and then some other of his copyists, other editions. So it's a good reference. Baron Reiter publishes an edition that gives you all the manuscripts. They also publish an edition that just has kind of the scholarly best options. I use a mix of that manuscript and then this Baron Reiter that actually has no bowings printed, so you can write in your own, so you can basically consult all the different manuscripts and decide on your bowings yourself. So that's what I did, and that's what I have in here. But it has this big, ugly modern print. But the manuscript's really sloppy. I have performed off of it before, but it's certainly not for beginners to perform on something that sloppy. Yeah, Bufar, you should always do scales first. It's the way to go, for sure. It's best warm-up. I did not name my cello, actually. Maybe it's because I was like, how old was I when I got this cello? 20? 21? I guess that's still young enough to name an instrument. I didn't feel the need for whatever reason. So no, my cello is nameless. Okay. Richard, I'm not sure what your question means. Okay, so I'm going to play the Allemande from the first Bach suite, and I'm going to play it kind of practicey. I'm not going to try to perform it super musically this second. I'm just going to see what technical things jump out at me and go from there. Yeah, my A string is definitely dry sounding, but I'm going to do my best. Just even the response I'm getting on my strings is not ideal. I also need a bow rehair. But you got to make it work no matter what your setup. So let's see. This Allemande starts right away with the G major chord, so with a pickup. So getting that both the pickup and the chord to sound great from the beginning is half the battle. It's easier when you've already played it though. It's getting it to ring the first time that's hard. Oh yeah, I played a St. Matthew Passion quite recently with Seraphic Fire in Miami. So I did do a little live stream practice session of me kind of reading through the parts for the first time. So yeah, I did a little bit. I have not played the St. John Passion, just the St. Matthew. Oh, the amount of complexity in Bach. So many details everywhere. Bach loves chords and double stops, one, because he's a keyboard player, and two, at least for all this solo repertoire, you know, like the violin partitas and sonatas and the Bach Cello Suites, we're playing all by ourselves, so we got to play some chords to fill in all those different voices. Bach also played the viola, so he understood string instruments, to an extent. So much to work on. Longest slur, I think, in the entire suites. Maybe there's one in the E flat prelude. There's definitely another, but this is like the notorious among cellists, this slur. Some people break it up, but the purists say, oh no, we gotta slur all that. I don't even think it really serves the music to slur it all, but I always have done the slur. Nope. I have to plan for it, else there's no way I'll have enough bow. possible. It's just not easy. Sounds so much better if you break it up, but I'll stay pure for now. That's always a fun chord. So if you can't tell what I'm doing, I'm barring across two strings, but I have to not hit the A string. If you're a cellist, you know what chord I'm talking about. There it is. Things we have to do to play the cello. I agree that Bach feels really natural. It's complex and it's hard, but he understood the instruments he was writing for the most part. Horn players may disagree in terms of Brandenburg and stuff, but he knew what he was doing. Some composers, not as much. Okay, where was I? Second half? I'm fading fast. Getting hungry and tired, so probably gonna, did I make it? I did an hour and a half. Not bad. Yeah, I'm probably gonna wrap up soon, but I'm gonna keep working on this second half. The passages where you just head bop out of habit, that's like everything for me. I have no idea about my head bopping. I mean, I kind of do, but it's certainly not what I'm focused on, and then I realize, oh yeah, I am head bopping. Hey Vinny, so I'm actually just wrapping up the stream now. So we did some good hard practice today, and I'm going to be doing more of it. So You know the deal. If you're subscribed, you'll know when I go live. I usually announce it on Instagram and Facebook too, but usually shortly before, because I kind of do my live streams a little spur of the moment. I mean, I usually have an idea of when I'm going to do them, but it helps to be like, oh, today I think I'm going to do it. So, Vinny, it's funny you asked that question. I just made a video about my practicing. It's my most recent video after this one, so go check out that video, because I confess that I have not been practicing lately, but I'm getting back into it. There is that. Okay. So thank you guys again. I'm like trying to think of a wrap up. My brain is in scale mode. That's what happens. You get so meditative and spacey when you play scales for an hour. But it's good. So, and I can turn this up a little bit now. Hopefully now I'm not going to blast you with the volume of my voice. Okay, so thank you guys for hanging out. I know it was not the most musical stream, but we got some Bach at the end there. And I am going to be trying to do more of these. A lot of the same, I mean, these are my warm-ups. What I did today on the stream is always what I do to warm up, so I'll be doing more of that on more streams. But yeah, even my hands are like, whoa, because I just have been out of shape. I haven't been practicing, and I really did, some real practice now, getting myself to go through that left-hand stuff. So I know it's going to pay off. I know next time I sit down to practice, I'm going to already feel better than I did today. And that's how it works, one step at a time. It's just like sports or anything. You got to get your endurance back up, and so that's what I'm doing. So thank you guys again for watching. You know the deal. If you want to leave a tip, you can do it on the GoFundMe. If you want to join my Patreon, there's a link to that in the description. If you're watching this as the archive, awesome. And, will not be long before you see me again playing scales. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye. The computer is frozen. We're stuck. I have to stream forever now. No, I'm sure I will get this to work in a second. All right.